Ken Trahan with Lenny Vangilder. It's our first NBC Weekend Review, brought to you by First NBC Bank. Our thanks to Ashton Ryan for their continual support from First NBC Bank, where you need to do your banking. You can bank on this. The Saints are staying home for the holidays, and I'm talking about the extended holidays because they're not going to the playoffs after being destroyed at the Meadowlands by the Giants, 52-27. First time the Giants have scored 50 or more points since 1986, and in many ways, the word was used afterwards by Joe Vitt, not my words. This was embarrassing.
It was embarrassing. The other word that was interesting to me yesterday was fragile. So this is a fragile football team right now. You know, when you've got some new guys in there, you don't have your real leader in the room in Sean Payton to be able to, tell guys things. And that's the one thing, it'd be interesting to see what the situation would be like now today on Airline Drive if Sean Payton was there and this had happened. I think some heads would be rolling right now in terms of, maybe a player or two would be landing on the waiver wire. I'm not sure we'll see that today, and really we haven't seen any kind of, major consequences of those kinds this year. And I think that's, hearing that word for the first time, that was pretty interesting to me. But no doubt it was an embarrassment.
Well, but you have veteran players. He talks about new players, but you have guys that have been here that understand how to win, that are making mistakes as well. Marcus Colston fumbles the ball, sets things in motion. Jimmy Graham lets the ball go through his hands, turns into an interception. Drew Brees, we know what's going on there. You can talk about the defense as a whole and veteran players that have been here for quite some time not performing well. So, look, it's a collective effort. And, of course, the kick coverage was as bad as I've ever seen. It wasn't just the yardage. It's the fact that guys were untouched and lanes were wide open.
Yeah, and, one of the things you got to remember with that is, probably 80% of Thomas Morstead's kickoffs the last 2 years have gone out of the end zone for a touchback. And all of a sudden, the conditions were a little more difficult yesterday. They're returning kicks. They don't cover kicks very often. I'm sure they do it in practice and don't really have the opportunity to do it much in a game situation if you go back over the last 2 years. It's not an excuse, but it's something that the Saints really haven't had a chance to deal with much, and you hope these last 3 games, Morstead in more normal conditions kicks everything out of the back of the end zone and you don't have to cover him anymore.
Saints got a couple of interceptions, and they probably should have had a couple of other ones. Albert Mack had the pick 6, which was good. Obviously, Joe Morgan, you have to credit him for what he's doing. It was good to see Darren Sproles back and making plays, and they ran the ball well. But it doesn't matter when you give this team what you gave them on a continual basis. The Saints amassed almost 500 yards of offense and got beat by 25 points.
Well, the Giants had about 100 yards less than that, but the big reason was the field position, be it the turnovers, the kick returns, whatever. The Giants started more than half of their drives in Saints territory. Their average drive start was the Saints' 49-yard line. When's the last time you saw that in a football game?
Listen, now you play for pride and draft order, obviously, and jobs, and clearly the attention will shift to a decision this week from Paul Tagliabue and what happens with bounty gate penalties, and to Sean Payton and whether or not he'll be back, and if they can reach an agreement sometime soon. They've had the ability to negotiate now for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's been awfully quiet, shall we say. Of course, the thing that we'll hear about very quickly here will be very likely by Tuesday, the penalties. If you're going to reinstate penalties, you need to do those things early in the week so teams can plan accordingly. So you would expect that by Tuesday that news would come down.
And, of course, so we move on and the Saints move on and they'll continue to play and phones will ring and we'll have fun. So I told Jude never to call me, right? So he called me anyway, and I didn't turn my phone off. And that's a clear revelation about who's calling us, and that's okay. You can call anytime. Okay, regarding what else is going on right now, the Hornets, listen, nothing good to really talk about there. Crowd, of course, sparse this past Friday night, another loss. He's going to keep calling, and I'm going to turn it off and hand it to my friend. But the bottom line is that people aren't going to the games, and they're not playing very well, and they got people hurt, and you know the whole story.
Right. Ideally, Anthony Davis is back this week, and that will be a good help there. But you're right. We talked about this previously, and that one of the issues that you deal with is trying to get people to think about basketball before football season is over. And a 5-game homestand in late November, early December, if you're going to ask for an ideal schedule from the league, that's not what you want to see. It was a good crowd for the Lakers, and granted, this league is all about who the competition is that's coming in. That helps you draw. Whether it's the Lakers, the Heat, some of the other star marquee names in the league. But at the same time, it's just not a good time, and of course the combination of what has happened in terms of personnel out there and who's actually on the floor, and the record as a result is not helping things either.
Well, the high school state championships decided this past weekend. Over 47,000 people in the Superdome, an acceptable number, but that was largely because of the Saturday night game with Rumble and Barb, which drew a huge crowd. And 3 New Orleans area teams win to put the metro area back on top in prep football after a 1 or 2 year hiatus.
Exactly, and that was certainly good to see the locals get it done. Edna Carr finishing off a terrific season with probably the best game of the weekend in a win over Neville. John Curtis might be the number 1 team in America after their win over Evangel. You had the number 1 in a lot of polls out of Florida, Manatee, losing Friday night in their state semifinals, so the door might be open for Curtis to claim a mythical national championship for the first time. And congratulations to JT and everybody there on their 25th state championship. And what do you say about our alma mater? And we can say that. And there's a lot of pride at Archbishop Rummel right now, winning their first state championship in the 50-year history of the school.
Yeah, great accomplishment. And of course, the awards luncheon of the New Orleans Quarterback Club on Monday. And of course, you can look at the video from that particular awards luncheon, all the prep players of the week. And of course, we announced our prep player of the year, and he is none other than junior quarterback Devontae Speedy Noel of Edna Carr.
Well deserved. And this guy is sensational and can literally take over a football game in any number of ways, and he did it this year and leading Carr to a state championship. This, in my mind, it was close, but it was well deserved at the same time, and clearly he was the best player in the area this year.
Just multi-purpose. He did it every way imaginable. Running, passing, catching passes. Tremendous player and a very personable young man. Congratulations to Devontae Speedy Noel for being our prep player of the year for SportsNola.com, the New Orleans Quarterback Club, WGSO 990 AM, and I'm sure you'll hear about it. That Friday Night Football has named him as their player of the year as well. As always, Lenny, a pleasure. We look forward to another fun sports week.
Yes, we will. See you later this week.
All right. Don't forget Sports Nola TV, Monday night, 6 p.m. on WHNO Channel 20. Curtis Johnson of Tulane, our special guest. You won't want to miss it. For Lenny, I'm Ken. Thanks for joining us. Have a great week, and God bless.